We're four friends with hot takes on food media.
And we're here to review and recap all kinds of food shows in bite-sized seasons.
Plus, virtual potlucks, cooking adventures, and food memes.
Welcome to Pod Appétit Gourmet Takes.
Hey, it's Justine.
And it's me, Meg. Welcome to another episode of the Justine and Megan Show. Pod Appétit Gourmet Takes.
Woo!
We are back with more of the Great British Bake Off 2022, the reality competition cooking show that crowns Britain's best amateur baker. On the menu for today, we are covering GBBO 2022, Episode 9, Patisserie Week, and Episode 10, drum roll please, the final.
Yay!
All right. But before we head into the baking tent, let's find out what we've been getting up to ourselves. Justine, lay it on me.
Okay, I brought a little show and tell for you, not so much a listener.
For the listener.
I opened a Christmas gift early accidentally from...
Wink.
It's literally the third time this week. My family has no sense of, sending me tracking numbers for things that they are sending me, because I am also receiving boxes. So I'm just opening things, and then I'm like, I got this from my sister.
Oh, very nice.
Simply Vegan Baking by Freya.
Previous GBBO contestant.
And I will note, I'm pretty sure they changed the little super title to say fuss instead of faff.
Oh, no. That must have been an Americanization, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
I bet the British one still says faff.
Yeah, taking the fuss out of vegan cakes, cookies, breads, and desserts instead of faff. I wanted to take the faff out of it. Now I have to take the fuss out of it.
My bakes still have too much faff. They're fuss-free, but what about the faff?
Exactly. I now have a lot of cookbooks with what I have physically and what I have digitally, because I have actually gotten a bunch, online. I got actually a gift card awarded to me at work for being such a good worker. I just hit up, the Kindle, and I was just like, oh, look at all these cookbooks on sale. So I have about, I think 77-ish.
Wow.
I know, it's a lot. So I was just like, I have maybe too many cookbooks. How do I look at these?
Good question.
So, the website Wheel of Names?
No.
It is a sort of spinning wheel website, and you can input whatever you want on the wheel.
Yes, my office used Wheel of Lunch to figure out where we were going that day to nearby restaurants.
Yes, very similar. So I actually typed in every single title to all the cookbooks that I have and put them in the wheel to then pick a cookbook and then used a random number generator to pick a page of that cookbook. And then, actually, one of the things that came up was my Isa Does It cookbook, and then picked the page, and it was for a lentil, it's like her beefaroni knockoff, so basically pasta, but instead with a meat sauce, it's with a lentil sauce. And I made that, and that's how I think I'm going to cook things from now on when I can't, there's too many decisions to make in picking through 77 cookbooks.
I think that's a great idea, because I feel like I am in a similar situation. I also have acquired quite a few cookbooks at this point. And I did think, well, maybe I have too many, but just the other day I was thinking to myself, I'd really like to make hummus. And of course I could Google a hummus recipe, But I was like, I have all these cookbooks. I'm going to find a hummus recipe. And I kid you not a single one of the cookbooks I have has a hummus recipe.
What?
So maybe I do not have enough cookbooks.
You don't have the right ones.
Apparently not. But that's a great idea. I might do that myself.
Yeah, I definitely recommend it, because I think also it'll help me. There were even a few that I had the rule of, if I random number generated too many times on a particular cookbook and nothing thrilled me, I'm like, I don't need it.
Good call. Yeah.
Marie Kondo it out of my life.
That was I am interested in Claire Sappis' latest cookbook, What's for Dessert, but I already have Dessert Person, and it looks like a porcupine with how many little Post-it notes I have sticking out of it. I'm like, all these recipes look great. And I've done maybe 2 of them. So I'm like, you know what? We'll just table What's for Dessert for now until I make more of dessert person.
Looking forward to that. Your desserts always look great, Meg.
Oh, thank you.
Speaking of, do you have something to share?
Actually, I didn't mean to segue so directly, but I will. So I'm planning to make, from dessert person, Claire's preserved lemon meringue cake.
Oh.
And I've already started making it in a way because the very first thing in the title is preserved lemons, right? So I've started preserving some lemons. I found a recipe. I had a bag of fresh Meyer lemons that my in-laws gave me from their own tree in their yard, so it was perfect. And it's basically just putting lemons in a salt and sugar mixture in a jar and letting it preserve for 1 month up to a year. So I've had them in their jars for about a week now. So they still have a ways to go, but I'm working toward the preserved lemon meringue cake.
It better be worth it.
It better be worth it, because it's going to be at least a month in the making.
Oh my gosh, better be the best goddamn cake you've ever done.
For reals, for reals.
Oh, I love that. It's very... I feel like I've seen a lot of, like, homesteading, like, is that how you say it? Mm-hmm. I feel like I've been seeing that trending a lot on Instagram, you know.
Definitely.
That's you now.
That's me. Actually, I have a freelance gig coming up that's writing a lot of that stuff. So yeah, that is me.
Woo!
Yeah. But in the meantime, should we talk about baking?
Yeah!
All right. We've reached the penultimate episode of GBBO 2022, Episode 9, Patisserie Week. Netflix says the degree of difficulty rises as the 4 remaining bakers take on dainty mini charlottes, delicate vertical tarts, and an almondy artistic showstopper. So yeah, we've reached the semifinals. The 4 remaining bakers are Shabira, Sandro, Yanush, and Abdul.
Oh my gosh, our 4 little babies.
This is absolutely the point where I don't want to see anyone go. Everyone is an excellent baker. It really just comes down to the little mistakes or the big mistakes.
No, I agree with you. I think, yeah, these 2 episodes are, you know, have that added pressure watching them. Because you're just like, is my favorite gonna go because of just one tiny little thing?
Yeah, I feel very conflicted because on the one hand, it's like, you know, I would be happy with any of these people winning. But on the other hand, I'm going to be sad if any of them lose, and they have to. So yeah, it's a real conundrum. But Shabira's my favorite. I'm rooting for her.
Mm-hmm, same. And I have a least favorite, and I don't know if I should say it or not.
Say it. Say it.
Sandro is my least favorite of these folks. I don't mesh with his personality so much, and then I feel like every time he makes something, he frustrates me because he just does too much, and every time they tell him you're doing too much, he just doesn't listen, and I'm like, come on, Sandro. So I feel like it's that, and with him really focusing on, like, I want a handshake, I want to win, like, that sort of stuff. Mm-hmm. It's not, so not so much about, like, his actual personality, but just more of, like, how he acts on the show, you know?
I can see that. I do definitely feel frustrated by him. There are so many times where I just want to reach through the screen and shake him and be like, Sandro, just do what the brief asks for. He's not doing himself any favors by going above and beyond. He's only hurting himself. So it's one of those things where it's like, he should have learned by now. He's made the same mistake enough times that he shouldn't be doing it anymore. And yet he still does up until the very last episode.
And I don't get the same stress from the other contestants.
Yeah. On the other hand, though, when it gets to this point, I'm still thinking in terms of who do I want to see more from? Like, whose bakes excite me the most? And Sandro's are a little bit more interesting to me than Yanush's, for example.
Right. Yanush's just not your vibe, and I get that.
And he really was in the beginning of the season.
Yeah.
But I think that he's slipped a little bit. And as the season goes on, I don't want to say he's a one-trick pony because he's not, but we did see a lot of the same things from him, which gets a little bit boring for me.
I agree with you. The things that he is strong in, like, he is strong in those.
Yes.
And he likes them and he does them, and that's good for me. He definitely has some weak points, but and it is kind of hard for him to veer outside of his strengths.
So should we talk about the signature challenge?
Yes.
All right, the bakers start off with mini charlottes, which are light sponge fingers, kind of, or some sort of collar with mousse on the inside. And most of them tied it with a ribbon. I don't know if that's typical. I have to assume it is, since 3 out of 4 of them did it that way. But I don't think I've ever had a mini charlotte.
No, but you know why they're called charlottes, right?
Because Alicia was taken.
I love that joke.
Mini Alicia's. See, Sandra's funny. I want his jokes all the way through.
You know what? They were all funny in this episode too, but that's the only one I think I wrote down.
that was a good joke for sure. So Shabira is making peanut butter and strawberry cheesecake. Let's just get this out of the way, how crazy Prue is.
No. How strange. How strange is this combination of flavors of peanut butter and berries?
Some quotes I wrote down from Prue. Quite strange, unexpected, funny flavors, unusual. I never would have thought of that combination. And Paul says, you wouldn't normally put together peanut butter and fruit.
If the listener hasn't caught on yet, that's peanut butter and jelly.
It's peanut butter and jelly.
They called peanut butter and jelly strange.
Unusual. Never heard of that flavor combination in my
Oh,
life.
Shabira with her flavor combinations. So
Even in the voiceover where they're showing the illustration and her idea for the challenge, they call it her left field peanut butter and strawberry cheesecake. Even the voiceover is in on it.
Oh my gosh. I actually do prefer strawberry jam on my PB&J, by the way.
I think that's my favorite jam for PB&J too. I also like raspberry and grape, but strawberry's got to be the top.
I think strawberry definitely superior.
Yep, I agree. I wanted to be able to ask LJ if peanut butter and jelly is common in the UK. Based on
LJ,
this, I would
right
have
into
to
the
guess
pod.
not. Let us know your thoughts on social media.
Sandro, as we were just talking about,
Yes.
is saddling himself by doing double the amount of work.
2 types of sponge, 2 types of mousse. It's definitely not a mini Charlotte. It's more like a mega Charlotte.
They called them chunky Charlottes.
That describes it for sure. They do say it tastes good though. It looks tasty, but maybe doesn't fit the brief.
Yeah, rich and overwhelming is what they said. Like, yeah, I think if he had, he's like, oh, I got these 2 ideas, the banana and the caramel, whatever, the thing he did, chocolate. And if he was just like, okay, remove 1 accessory.
Yes, listen to Coco Chanel.
I think he would have won the show, honestly.
Yes, and he did have time management problems too. So if he just pared down his concept, I think he would have done a lot better overall.
Yeah. But speaking of keeping it simple, we got Abdul with the tiramisu, which I love a tiramisu.
I love tiramisu. I love pistachio, which is what he used for this. Abdul is definitely a less is more in this case, whereas Sandro is more.
Yeah.
They weren't maybe that impressive looking, but I do think it was a smart move. The judges do tend to like classic bakes,
Yes.
So I think it was smart to just do a simple tiramisu. He didn't do the ribbon on it, which didn't seem to hurt him too much, but they did say it looked a little messy, but the flavors were 10 out of 10. So his flavors shone through.
And even like Janusz, who we'll talk about in a second, his guidance to Abdul was, he's like, hey, I just covered mine in flowers so
Put
they
a
don't
bird on
see
it.
Yeah. If he used a ribbon, they would see less of it,
True. Yes, just cover it with flowers. I think that's good decorating advice. His did look very pretty, so he made a plum and chocolate mini Charlotte.
So good.
It sounds delicious.
Oh,
Plums are delicious. Plum and chocolate is a good combo. The only thing that I thought sounded funny about this is that he said it was based on one of his favorite candies as a child. And I thought, what kid likes plums and chocolate? I don't know. Maybe it's a Polish candy, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
I'm certainly not familiar with what it might be.
I don't think I've ever had that flavor combination, so I would call that strange and unusual.
Certainly stranger and more unusual than peanut butter and jelly.
Right, yes.
But his sponge is a little too tough.
Yeah, and I think, even Janusz himself at the top of the episode is like, hey, Patisserie, I'm not good at this.
Yes, he says it's his greatest weakness, which, seems like a true statement.
Yeah, but even in his struggles, all of his stuff still, like, I don't know, it looks good.
Yeah, that was beautiful, the mini Charlottes.
If they did that in an earlier week, he would not be in the bottom.
No, definitely not. Yeah, it's definitely that point where everyone is strong and you can't mess up.
Yeah. Overall, enjoyable, pretty good. People are doing well.
Yeah, until
the technical.
The
This was one of the best technicals, I think.
It was certainly technical, very finicky. So this was a chocolate, hazelnut, and raspberry vertical tart, which I think is maybe difficult to describe if the listener didn't see the episode, but basically you take a tart and kind of turn it on its side so that the semicircle...
But like a hollow tart.
Yes, a hollow tart. That's kind of, it's odd. You just have to look up a picture.
It's like looking at an O that's been filled with chocolate, but only halfway.
A semicircle of chocolate.
That's right.
Yeah, the bakers were very confused about how to assemble these, Sandro especially, although he did it the last minute. Figure it out.
I didn't think he was gonna make it. I didn't think he was gonna make it at all. When I was watching it, I was like, Sandra's going home!
It was definitely that gif of that woman looking confused with the equations flying by her. Like, that was Sandro in that moment.
Yeah, he did not read the prompt fully. He started with, okay, cut in half, and then cut them, he like bisected them.
Yes. But then he reread semicircle, and that's when the light bulb came on for him.
Such a light bulb. But I will say, there were some struggles in other people. Like, I cannot believe Janusz put rice with the pastry without a parchment paper, like, barrier. Like,
yeah, that was hilarious. Of course the rice stuck to the pastry.
I know that he's, like, done, blind baking before.
Yeah, it's just blind baking with rice. Yeah, you definitely need that barrier there in some way. Shabira was the only one who used the rice correctly, and on the first go, she knew exactly what to do with that rice to keep the tart from slipping down the mold.
Right. I think because Shabira probably read it all first, looked at each ingredient, because she went like, we have rice, that means we need to do this. You know?
They never put in like a red herring in the ingredients for the technical challenge. They're never like, here's a banana, just kidding, you don't use it.
They do that on the crime scene.
Do they?
I forget the name of the show, but you know what I'm talking about.
Crime Scene Kitchen?
Crime Scene Kitchen.
Yes.
I liked that show, but yeah, they do red herrings there.
That's great. I love that. So yeah, she gets first because she does it the best. Sandro gets last, unsurprisingly. It's kind of messy. Yeah,
but they all kind of didn't do the mousse very well.
Yes, it should have been more mousse-like, where all of theirs were more like ganache.
Mm-hmm.
Moving on to the showstopper, they have to make a croquant, which is a Swedish wedding cake. It's an elaborate multi-tiered pastry with almond biscuit dough, marzipan, and icing and sugar work decorations. It's also supposed to be tall. They say that the baker's croquant should be at least 60 centimeters tall.
I have a couple of questions.
Yes.
Do you think that they gave them enough time to do something this extravagant?
I would say it probably never seems like enough time. But seeing the results that everyone had, I would say yes, I think they did. Because I think Shabira did very well. I think Abdul did very well. I was really impressed with what they were able to pull off.
They just all seem so, like, naked to me, but maybe that's what it is.
I agree, But I think that might just be how croquants are. Like, I think that that's just inherent to what this dessert is.
Mm-hmm.
I could be wrong about that. Obviously, I'm not very familiar with croquants, nor have I ever tasted one. But that was the impression I got. So, yeah, I did enjoy Shabira's and Abdul's especially. But also, they looked great. But at the same time, it was like, yeah, I think the concept of the dessert itself is a little odd to me. Like, I wouldn't look at any of theirs and be like, that looks delicious. Get me a fork right now. You know, it's not like a beautiful cake that I just want to sink my teeth into. It's this kind of strange but apparently edible dessert.
Yeah, it's an almond biscuit dough, and I feel like maybe it's just us here in the States. We're kind of not used to eating such a thing for dessert.
Yeah.
And we're like, well, what does it go with? Does it need to be dipped in something? Like, I don't know. I'm feeling like they're over there and they'll be like, oh, that'd be good with a cup of tea.
Yeah, I think it's definitely in the form factor for me because, like, if you gave me a pale cookie on a plate, I would be perfectly happy with that. But once you make it this centerpiece, yeah, I guess I do expect a little bit more in terms of looks.
Yeah, I do agree that Shabira's DNA helix, that was like, wow, like
amazing. It looked really good. It had so many elements to it, and it was structurally sound, which was amazing. Like, any other baker could try to do that and have it fall over.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, she said the first 3 times she did make it, it did fall over.
It's like Monty Python and the Holy Grail. Everyone said I was daft to build a castle on a swamp, but I built it all the same, just to show them. And then he builds 2 towers, and so I built a 3rd. That burned down, fell over, then sank into the swamp. But the 4th one stayed up.
I don't know, that sounds more like Sandro's build.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. That looked a mess.
It looked, yeah. It's interesting because Sandro is obviously a very skilled draftsman. Like, you look at his blueprint for this croquant, and it's amazing. I'm like, did he draw that? I mean, he must have. Who else would have drawn it? But I'm like, this guy is, like, really technically skilled with his drafting skills. But, yeah, the end result was really sloppy. The caramel, I think it was especially the caramel. He used the caramel to stick his pieces together, and it was just straight up burnt. It was,
like, black.
Yeah, it was black. It was dripping down the sides. It looked like he had accidentally dropped his dessert in tar.
And then even when he was piping, they did like a close-up of his piping, and like it was just like falling over because he was just like in a rush, and I was just like, ah!
Yeah, I felt like that edit was kind of mean because it was like super close up, and he's like, I have to show them that I can finesse this, and then it's just like splodge.
Yeah.
It was a little bit sad.
But Abdul and his rocket ship.
I loved this. This looked so good. So he makes the rocket ship, and it looks very stained glass. He has these color sugar or isomalt windows. And even though it was a spaceship launching, something about it looked very organic to me. Like the way that it had a bunch of like swirls, and it looked almost bubbly in a certain way. I really liked it. Very visually appealing. I think it looked great. Yeah,
it looked great. They said it tasted great. And then we have Janusz's Brighton Pride, which was, they said, less tidy, more towards the top. It wasn't like quite as even of a structure. And then just, parts of it were over or underbaked. And I will say, this reminded me of something that I saw on his social media, is that if you look at each episode of Janusz, he wears a different shirt in each episode. And if you put all the shirts he wore together, it makes, like, the pride flags.
Oh, really? Oh, that's cute.
I know that he said that he wasn't intending to be in every episode, but
he planned it out.
Yeah.
I like the sentiment of this bake. I do think I agree with the critique, though. I really liked the pride flag bottom tier. I thought that was very nicely executed, very finessed. I, again, liked the sort of isomalt stained window look that he had going on. I do think that the middle and top tiers got quite sloppy looking.
Yeah.
And I never would have known the top tier was supposed to be musical notes unless they told me. which they did, fortunately.
Oh. Yeah, I think it came down to, so basically, Shabir's was amazing, but some were a little too dry. Abdul's was great to look at, great to taste. Janusz's was not tidy, some over underbaked. Sandro's was ugly, but the bacon flavor were really good. So as they were going into this, they were like, okay, Shabira and Abdul at the top, the other two folks at the bottom.
Yes. Yeah. So they do end up awarding Abdul with Star Baker.
Dude, I got like the secret, like, what if Abdul takes it all?
I was very happy for him. So since I've been rewatching these episodes for the sake of the podcast, I didn't notice it on first watch, but Abdul really has been strong the whole season. Since day one, like, he's performed very consistently. And not only that, but he improves as well. So I'm a little sad I didn't notice that first go around, because it makes me wonder how many other watchers didn't necessarily notice that. So I'm glad that he finally won Star Baker. I think he's a very excellent contestant. I do feel a tiny bit like it was sort of a pity win at this point. Like, oh, Abdul hasn't won Star Baker, because like any other week I would have been thrilled for Abdul. But like Shabira's was so amazing. Like, I felt that her showstopper was really a showstopper. They seemed to like her signature better.
I just think it came down to, like, hers was just, like, a little too overbaked,
Yeah, I guess so. But yeah, I'm happy for Abdul. I think he definitely deserves it.
Yeah, and now here comes a heartbreaking moment.
Yeah, so sadly, Janusz gets sent home.
Ugh, but he knew it too. He was like nodding to no, like, it's okay, you can say it. I'm like, oh my god, I'm gonna cry.
Yeah, it was basically Sandro got lucky. I think it probably came down to that his flavors and his showstopper were better than Janusz's. Sandro cries happy tears to make it into the finals, and I think Janusz took losing very gracefully.
Oh yeah. I think it was interesting that Matt then went up to Sandro and was like, it was close.
Right?
Like,
it's like,
dang.
thanks, man.
It was almost you.
Yeah, if you had told me in week 1 that Janusz wasn't going to make it to the finals, I would have been surprised. But with the context of the rest of the season, it's like, yeah, he did start to slip a little bit.
Yeah. But gosh darn it, I love him.
I liked him a lot, too. He was a fun contestant to have. Also very funny. I love that all these people are funny.
They're so funny. They're so positive and chipper.
Yeah. All right, well, we've got a real Sophie's Choice here going into the final, which we will get to right after this commercial break. And we're back. We're talking about the Great British Bake Off 2022, Episode 10, The Final. Time's up, bakers. The final 3 create a picnic with sandwiches, cakes, and pies, build pudding bombs, and construct a scrumptious salute to our planet. So yes, our final 3 are Sandro, Shabira, and Abdul. Clap, 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 clap.
Yay. I feel like this was, for me, the most kind of a sleeper final.
I really felt that way too. I don't know why, but I don't want to say I was bored with this episode, because maybe that's a little extreme, but it felt very anticlimactic to me. It just felt very rote. It was like, all right, here's the final. Here's the part where their friends and family cry. Here's the part where we get the montage of all the bakers that came before. I don't know what it is about GBBO finals, but the showstoppers in the finale always seem the least impressive to me. I can't think of a showstopper finale where I've been like, wow, these are all so amazing. It's more like, yeah, okay, I guess I'm happy with anyone winning.
The one that I think of is actually from one of the Christmas or New Year episodes.
With the trains?
Yes!
Yeah!
Exactly!
See, there we go. We both landed on the one showstopper that's really stuck in our minds.
Yes, 100%. If people haven't watched that episode, like, go watch it. It was the one with Bryony.
Yes, I loved that one.
That one was a showstopper. It was like, here's a thing, but also here's a surprise, and a moving thing, and fireworks.
Yeah. Moving parts. It was great.
Yeah. Yeah, this, I'm like, but like also just sort of the whole theme of the episode seemed to come out of nowhere. They're like, hi, we're doing a theme, and it's like, we love our planet.
Yeah, so the theme is our beautiful planet. They say they want to focus on seasonality and sustainability. And it's like, yeah, these are great things to talk about when it comes to food, but it does seem out of place on GBBO. It's like you guys have like are so apolitical, like in a way that's very obvious that you're like trying to just like, you know, appeal to everyone type of way that it's like, yeah, it's weird to suddenly be like, we care about the environment so much.
Had the other last seasons had themes for the final? I don't remember.
Not that I remember off the top of my head.
I
Maybe
mean,
though.
I think it would have been cool to do like the whole season as like a sustainable theme.
That would be cool. Mm-hmm.
I feel like this reminds me of like other reality TV shows. Okay, so you know, in like America's Next Top Model, they would do sort of like themes for the whole season where I remember the one where they had the girls like stop smoking, and so it was a very environmental theme where they gave them like an environmental bus to travel around with instead of the stretch Hummer limos that were of previous seasons. And like
should have made them ride bikes everywhere.
they're like, and here you have to go on 7 go-sees in New York on bikes.
Take a bird scooter from here to there. Okay, bye.
But like, yeah, the theme again surprised me just like a little out of nowhere, and I also maybe wanted to learn more of like, okay, what season is it? And then like
that's true, because they do obviously try to make it seasonal with the holidays based on when it's airing. So it's like, here's our Halloween episode around Halloween time, but they film it in the summer, right?
Yeah.
So, and what we were saying before about how we miss those little interstitials that were semi-educational, where it's like, let's learn about eel pies, let's learn about this. This again would have been a good opportunity to be like, oh, we got this watercress from this farm here outside of London. You know, we could have learned more about the ingredients and why they were sustainable or seasonal.
Yeah, and like what exact ingredients that they kind of had to choose from, because that's the thing. I'm like, first of all, you're in a different country than me. I'm sure you've got different stuff. I don't know what season, because I know that, yeah, it's summer there, but it's like November here.
Right.
So I was just kind of thrown off about the context because they didn't drop any sort of, they just said, okay, we're using sustainable ingredients, and then, you know, here's our aubergine and mushrooms and rocket and da-da-da-da-da. And I'm like...
Well, and I thought it was kind of funny, too, because when they were first introducing the theme, Prue is saying something like, oh, and I'm so excited for the theme of this finale. And while she's talking, we see this B-roll of this big rhinoceros statue and these very like colorful pennants, and I'm like, oh, it's circus themed. I guess not that there's rhinoceroses and circuses, but that was my first thought. I was like, circus, you know. But so yeah, the design, the theming, it didn't really mesh for me.
Yeah, I think going forward, sure, have a theme. I mean, but be careful because you're GBBO and you might just do Japanese theme.
We're doing Mexican week again.
Yeah.
But this time for the finale.
Well, anywho, they had to do... Oh, wait. First of all...
Yes.
Noli Pops.
Noli Pops is gone for most of this episode. Apparently he was under the weather. And Justine and I are on the same page with this one. Matt, not our favorite host. And that was really brought into stark contrast when it was on his shoulders. I was like, wow, Matt's even more insufferable when it's just him.
I think it was interesting because then he had to also play like the straight man, you know?
Yeah, I'm not really sure how I would boil down their dynamic because it's not like Noel's really a straight man either, but it's like, yeah, there's definitely something missing when there's only one host.
Yeah, their dynamic is... Noel kind of has to be the straight man, but like he's silly, so he's like the reserved man, and then like Matt is like the...
Noel is the non sequitur man. He's like, let me tell you about the time I egg washed a priest's legs. This is a thing that he actually said in this season.
But it's hilarious.
Yes, I love him. I have no idea how his brain works, but I love it.
Yeah, it's so silly.
One good thing that this finale does have going on for it is that I think this is the first finale where all 3 contestants are people of color.
Yes, I did note that too. Even though I have to really eat my words from, like, the first episode we recorded this, I am so happy to do so, you know?
Yes. It's true. But yeah, it was a nice turnaround based on how the season started out. So, yeah.
And how the seasons normally go.
That's true.
No, I love this. And yes, I was also so very excited when I realized that too. Yes.
And Prue says, I don't care who wins, I just love them all. And I would co-sign that.
Yeah.
So let's get into the signature. They have to make a seasonal picnic with ingredients from across the UK. They make 6 mini cakes, 6 individual vegetarian pies, and 6 finger sandwiches made from a classic white loaf that they also have to bake themselves.
It's quite a lot.
It is a lot, but Sandro decides to make even more. This was maybe the most frustrating of his challenges so far. So in addition to all those things, he's like, you know what? I'm also going to make fruit tarts and fruit-covered biscuits. So, yeah, I don't know why. He also said that he's trying to do some elements that the judges thought were unsuccessful in some of his previous bakes. So this is what I'd kind of call like a redemption bake. And we see this a lot in GBBO. Bakers often do this. They feel like they have something to prove. They feel like they need to be like, oh, I can actually make a macaron, you know. But has this ever worked for a baker? I feel like it never has.
I think they normally did do this, or they did do this on Peter's season for the showstopper. They said you had to do a big pile of crap with things that you had done from the season, but didn't have to be necessarily things that they needed redemption on, but just redo some things so we can see them. But often they choose to do like a redemption.
I don't know if it's the way to go. I don't know. I feel like it's setting up for failure because it's like, I swear I can do it. And then if you mess it up again, it just seems kind of embarrassing.
Yeah. There was a whole lot of stuff happening in here. Oh, I do have a note. Why is Shabira's American accent that of a nerd?
Her American accent and Matt's were so bad. I was like, oh no, is this what everyone thinks of Americans? Probably. Their American accent was about as good as my British accent is, which is to say horrible. Also, she says, do you want an eggplant in your burger? And I'm like, what? That's not even a thing. Like, does she think we have eggplant burgers in America?
You can get eggplant burgers if you go to specific, like, raw, like, vegan restaurants.
Yeah, but it's not a thing. It's not like, a thing. Let's get a hot dog at the baseball stadium.
Yeah. But yeah, an eggplant in your burger. I'm like, no, nobody's eating that.
No, thank you.
But I love that they are like, eggplant. Like,
I mean, they did have the nasaliness down. That is very American.
But aubergine, come on, guys.
Aubergine's a dumb word. What's wrong with eggplant?
At one point, it looked like an egg, okay?
Yeah, come on. There's a reason for it.
Okay, out of all of these things, are there any that you would have been interested in trying?
I did. Well, speaking of the eggplant, I did like her eggplant no pork pies with the quail egg. Those looked interesting to me. Somehow, except for Sandro's, all of Shabira's and Abdul's looked very pale to me. I looked at those spreads and they all looked quite washed out for some reason. So I don't know. I guess it's like the combo of like the white bread with the pastry crust. I just wanted a little bit more color, but I did like the idea of Shabira's no pork pies. I like the idea of the strawberry and rosemary Swiss roll. Those are both flavors I like a lot, and I think the strawberry and rosemary together would be interesting. The strawberry design on the outside of the Swiss roll was very cute, but again, I think could have been a little bit brighter.
It was a little pale.
It was kind of muted. It turned more like brown than red when it was baked, so
yeah.
I think she could have bumped up the food coloring a little bit. I liked Abdul's beet and carrot and dill and cream cheese sandwiches.
Oh, yeah.
They looked messy, but the flavor combination sounded really good to me.
Yeah. I think Shabira had an interesting sandwich, which was the bean and salsa.
Yeah, again, it was like, I like those flavors. I don't know if I would want it in a white bread
I'm
sandwich.
just curious. I'm like,
I would
what
certainly
is
try
that? Yeah, I'm so curious about it.
Yeah. And I did like Sandro's cauliflower and cheese pies. I feel like it'd be hard to go wrong with cauliflower and cheese.
Yeah. I think his egg and cress sandwich, they said like, oh yeah, it was perfect. You can't go wrong. I think it was an easy swing for him because he was doing so much. I think he was doing a lot, so some of his stuff was a bit more simplified.
Yeah, and egg and cress, again, is one of those, like, classic British staples. It's like,
Yeah.
it would be like making the tiramisu, you know? It's like, here's something everyone knows, everyone loves. Bing, bang, boom.
Bing, bang, bada, bang.
So yeah, and this is something that I think is true for every GBBO finale, is that even if there are harsh criticisms that the judges may have, they don't really vocalize those because, you know, they're trying to build this tension for the finale of like, who's gonna win? So even if someone's doing very poorly, I don't think they ever really highlight it. So at the end of the signature, everyone seems to be in good standing. Everyone has had nice things said about their picnics.
I agree with that. I think, yeah, the only time would be like the technical where you have like a clear list.
Yes. They are literally ranked. But yeah, so the technical is the summer pudding bomb.
Ooh, was it a bomb?
Oh my gosh. Literally. So this includes elderflower and berry jelly, which is set with vegetarian gelatin, a creamy meringue that they called pâte bombe, and raspberry filling encased in a raspberry-soaked bread. And the bread was the white bread loaf that they had made from the signature challenge.
Yes. Do you think that they should have told them that they needed to boil the vegetarian gelatin?
I do think, yeah, it's one of those things where it's like Shabira and Abdul knew you had to boil it. So 2 of the 3 bakers did know that about the gelatin. But yeah, it seems setting them up for failure. I just felt like this whole technical was just a waste of time. It's like, let's fill 15 minutes of airtime. That's what it felt like to me.
All these bakers are great, yet they all could not make this thing.
Yeah, nobody set properly. None of them even remotely resembled the sort of bomb shape that Prue and Paul were going for. It really did just feel like a time killer or a time waster for the final episode.
Yeah, and with it being a technical, it's not really that big of a deal anyway.
Yeah, Abdul places first, and when they clap, Paul says, "Don't clap," because it was kind of like his was the least worst. None of them pulled this off well. They were all kind of failures.
His was just like the most set.
Yes, it most resembled a coherent shape instead of just a puddle on the plate. And Sandra was last.
Yeah, so his was like half set, and then Shabira's was like quarter set, and then like Sandra's was like not set at all, and that's like the ranking.
And even if they had done these perfectly, there was something I didn't like about the look of the soaked bread. It looked a little gross to me, even the one that was supposed to be the perfect, beautiful example.
Yeah, and then theirs turned out like this weird like pinky color that...
Yeah, I think it was maybe just too evocative of, I don't know, slabs of raw meat or something.
Exactly, yes.
Or, you know, no one wants to eat soggy bread, right? The only time you want to eat soggy bread is if it's been baked into a bread pudding, you know, and then it's not soggy anymore. Then it's nice and custardy. So, yeah, I didn't like this challenge.
No.
The one thing I did like about it was the concept of that they had to use an element that they had already made for the signature. I thought that was interesting, although if it were any other episode, I feel like that would be kind of mean, because like, what if they messed up their signature? Then they're already set up for failure in the technical. I feel like that's a little cruel, maybe.
Yeah, and I feel like that also could sort of slip by under the radar since we didn't really see, I don't know, it wasn't really explicitly shown that was a part of it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But But yeah, so that was the technical. The showstopper was going with the theme of Our Beautiful Planet. So they were tasked with making large planet-themed edible sculptures. A large cake base with at least 3 additional baking skills.
I have a beef.
Yes.
How come no one mentioned that Sandro's showstopper was missing a whole level at the end?
That's a very good question. And somehow I did not notice that the first time I watched this episode. But this time I was like, wait, there's supposed to be a whole top layer. So he wanted to do an ocean-themed cake base, the sun and clouds. And then the top tier was meant to be a moon and then cake pop planets.
Yes.
And that moon and the planets and the hanging stars, nowhere to be seen in the final edit. And it was weird, too, because a lot of times when Baker isn't able to deliver on their concept, it's something that they point out when the judges are walking through. You know, the judges would be like, oh, are you sure you can make those cake pops? And then they'd revisit that. You know, it'd be in the edit. But they seem to just try to cut out any reference to it entirely.
It's just completely no mention of it from anywhere. He plops it down, and then you have to be like, that's not what the picture looked like.
Yeah, it's like, wait, there's only 2 levels, and there were supposed to be 3. This might, again, be part of how they tend to edit these final episodes, where, like, they want it to seem like as close of a race as possible for the viewer. So even though there's, like, this huge criticism to be had in his final showstopper, they just don't mention it in the edit, because they're like, it could be anyone's game, you know.
I think that's stupid, and even if it's just down to 2 people, that's still a good show.
I agree. And also, Sandro, you could tell when he felt he hadn't done well. And I think it was very obvious that he felt he was not going to win. Yeah. So, yeah, I don't think it necessarily would have hurt if they had been like, oh, where'd that top layer go?
Yeah, like, what happened?
Maybe Janusz ate it along with his 8th spring roll.
Confirmed
on Instagram. Something I did like about Sandro's, and it was a small element, so maybe it didn't count for much in the judging, but the little suspended raindrops, I thought that was a cute element to the design.
Yeah, but I will say, at least he still had 3 elements for them to pick upon.
Yes.
Because I think, originally that 3rd element was the cake pop planet, but at least he still had 3 things, so I think... Yeah, I really want to know what happened there, because at that point he wasn't missing anything. He had just gone above and beyond and then couldn't fulfill it.
Yeah, and there's literally no reference to it. Never at any point is he like, oh, I don't have time to make these cake pops, or, oh, the cake is underbaked. It's just completely erased.
Yeah, it's so weird. But he had bread, sponge, and profiteroles for his sort of 3 things.
And many of the elements were overbaked, so there were some critiques to be had there in what he presented.
Now, your favorite, Abdul.
So, just blanket statement for this whole showstopper, no one's really impressed me. I wanted to love Abdul's because it's bees. I love bees. This felt right up my alley. I do think that the critiques were well-founded when Prue said, this doesn't look very bee-like. It just looks like a fat blob. I do think he could have done more to make the macarons look like bees. Maybe give them wings. Maybe do try to make them more bee-shaped. So I felt like the execution was a little lacking there. The beehive that he made, I never would have known that was a beehive unless he told me. It looked like a stack of pancakes, especially since there was the honey syrup poured over the top. I'm like, that's a stack of pancakes.
It was messy.
Yeah. And maybe it would have been too on the nose, but I was expecting actual honeycomb candy as one of his elements. But instead, he just molded some, I believe it was white chocolate that he dyed yellow to look like honeycomb shards.
Well, it's interesting, as we were just talking about Sandro, what they judged him on. They judged Abdul on 4 things, not 3 things. And that was his sponge, the macarons, the shoe buns, and the biscuit.
Yes. They did say that Prue said the shoe buns were, quote, a failure.
Yes.
Which is harsh, but she loved the biscuit. I'm like, what is the word? She loved the biscuit on top. She thought that was great. And I believe it was similar to the biscuit he made for the Crocon in the previous episode.
Oh, that's what they were referencing. They were like, this thing again. I was like, from which one? And then Shabira, oh my gosh. So this was meant to be an orangutan holding a forest above his head. Yeah.
Speaking of things that I wouldn't be able to identify if someone didn't tell me, that does not look like an orangutan.
Looks like a nightmare.
Oh my goodness. That was very funny looking. Shabira herself calls it ugly. So I think something I really like about Shabira is that she is self-aware that it's not this beautiful sculpture. She's like, oh, that's a little weird. And it's like, yeah, it is. And she also confesses to not fully practicing every single element. And I feel like, yeah, that kind of shows. It's a little bit of a hodgepodge.
A little bit of a mess. So what she was judged on was a sponge, a tarragon shortbread, and a tart.
Yes. And the inverted meringues, did you say that?
Oh, I didn't. Did they taste those?
I don't recall. But she made a black pepper sponge cake with blackberry filling and a hazelnut buttercream. I would eat that up for sure.
That sounds good.
Yeah. They said her flavors were superb, I would say, as always.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are the 3 quote-unquote showstoppers.
I feel like maybe they should just take the final episode and get rid of the 3 things and then just make it sort of like a 2-day thing. 2-day event to make one thing.
Ooh, that would be cool. Just like one really big, impressive showstopper that they have multiple days to work on.
Yes.
That would be fun. I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, because I think sticking to like this structure, because then you don't get like the finale. You get like something messy.
Yeah, and like we said, a technical that just feels like a time killer, you know.
Yeah, they should listen to us.
GBBO, we have some notes.
Yes. Give us a call.
We also think you should put red herrings in the technical.
Oh, no. But kinda yes.
It would be fun. Something kind of fun about this finale is that the friends and family are back in person, which they had been missing from 2021 and 2020 for pandemic reasons. So it was nice to have a big celebration with everyone there live again. That was nice. And yeah, should we just reveal the winner?
Drum roll.
Drum roll. It was Shabira.
Shabira.
Air horn noises.
Like I said, I was like, oh man, Abdul might just take it all in the end, you know, just like sneak in there. Just
Yeah, he could be like
well.
the dark horse sleeper hit. I wouldn't have been mad about that.
Yeah, he was doing well.
He was doing very well. Yeah, I think he definitely outperformed Sandro in the finale. So.
Yeah, I think Sandro tripped on his own feet at the end.
Mm-hmm. Got too ambitious.
Yeah, if he had just honed, focused, pared down, he would have won it all. I swear.
Yeah, I wish that he had learned that lesson earlier in the season because, yeah, I think we could have seen something really, really impressive from him.
Yeah, because he's a great baker. I mean,
he really is. Yeah, I'm very impressed by his ideas. Mm-hmm. But I'm very happy Shabira won. It was so deserved.
Yes, I love her.
Yes, such an excellent baker. She's a risk taker. She's creative. She has unique ideas. She was also just a fun contestant. She was funny. She's
hilarious.
humble when she won. She was always complimenting her peers. I just loved her. I was very happy that she won.
She's great on camera, so I'm really looking forward to the content that she makes going forward. Because, you know, sometimes they give them shows. Of course, everybody there is going to get a book deal.
Yeah. The unwritten prize of winning GBBO is a cookbook deal.
Yes. Hence our problem.
Right. I thought that The judges and the hosts said really sweet things about her. Prue goes up and kind of grabs her cheeks and says, "Aren't you a clever bunny?" And I'm like, well, I feel like that's a little patronizing, but also
Yes,
if
it
someone
is.
said that to me, I would feel very complimented. And Noel says, "Never been a baker like you." I thought that was so cute. Noel and Shabiro definitely, I think, had
Yes.
that BFF vibe going on by the end of the show.
We talked about this. We tend to really root for whoever Noel picks as
That's
his
true.
BFF.
That's true. Because Noel and Bryony were tight, and we're like, yeah, go Bryony.
Yeah. Justice for Bryony.
For reals. Shabira said that it had been a while since a woman had won the Bake Off, which I was curious to read more about because I was like, oh, is that true? I don't remember. So I looked it up, and yeah, there hasn't been a female winner since Series 8, Sophie Faldo. So it's been 5 years since a woman has won Bake Off.
gosh.
But if you look overall, there have been 7 female winners and 6 male winners. So it seems pretty equitable overall.
Yeah, and I will say there tends to a lot of times be more female contestants overall.
Mhm.
And it's really, as we just said, not just the winners who get the book deals. It's almost literally anybody who appears on the show.
Yes, very true. It seems like if you want it as a baker, you can have that
Yeah.
book deal.
I think even also if you have a strong online presence.
Absolutely. Yeah, because Kim Joy didn't win, and she has 3, maybe
Yeah.
4 cookbooks.
Yeah, I think I definitely said in the last episode wrong, like how many she did have, because I just recently remembered. I'm like, oh yeah, she has a Christmas or holiday
She has a
book
whole
too.
Christmas cookbook. Yep,
Yeah.
exactly.
Completely forgot about. Sorry.
But yeah, so we're very happy with this, and congratulations to Shabira. And
Yay.
we will have more thoughts on this and on the season as a whole in our next episode, our digest episode.
Oh,
So
yeah.
stay tuned for that. Should we head over to the back burner?
Let's head over.
More GBBO stuff on the back burner. It turns out Matt Lucas is bidding farewell to the Bake Off, which, bye.
Bye. Sorry. I think I mentioned it a few episodes ago. He was really annoying this season. Sorry.
I did find him especially annoying this season. I'm sorry. I don't want to just say mean things about people, but my least favorite host. I'm not sad to see him go. I was very surprised because he was a guest on a podcast I love called Off Menu, and I found him very funny on that podcast. And I was like, where is this on GBBO? What's going on? I don't understand. But yeah, I'm not sad to see him go. This probably won't happen, but I would love for Sandy to come back. If we could have a Noel-Sandy combo again, I would be so happy.
Sandy did an interview recently where she talked about, like, I don't know why I was on Bake Off. Like,
Oh, but I loved her. All right, I guess we'll just have to wait and see who our new host is going to be next year.
But Noel is still gonna be there, which I love. Because,
Me too.
I mean, when they put him there, first I feel like you're like, what? What's this goth comedian actor? You know, like,
I know.
what does he have to do with, like, basically I feel like even a couple years ago, what we would maybe even classify as his grandma show, you know?
True, yeah. And it's always hard for me to tell who is relevant in the UK. You know,
Yeah.
I'm like, I feel like he's maybe not relevant anymore, but I love him, so I'm glad that he's on the show. So
I would love it if they chose a female comedian.
Me too.
I think
yeah.
we need more women on this show in the hosting and judging area.
Absolutely. Maybe get Sue or Mel back. No, it'd be sad if we just had one of them.
No,
I feel
yeah.
like you need them as a package deal.
Yeah, that's our thoughts about that.
Yeah, revisiting Bon Appetit once again. We have some BA news. So New York Magazine recently had an issue that featured a lot of prominent celebrity New Yorkers, and Scylla El Whaley, Claire Saffitz, and Andy Baragani were all on the cover.
Oh, you mean our best friends?
Our BFFs. And not Bon Appetit, but Corn Kid was also on the cover, which I feel is worth mentioning.
Okay.
And most of that same crew, maybe they all had their magazine shoot on the same day, but Claire recently had a book launch party for her new cookbook, What's for Dessert. Andy was there, so was Gabby Mellion, Emil Stanek, and Christina Chey. So looked like a little Bon Appetit reunion. And if you want to see some photos on that, Gabby posted them on her Instagram, although it might have been stories, so maybe they're gone by now. But anyway, there was a little BA reunion, and also shout out to Michael Guggino, who is friend of the podcast.
Friend of the pod.
We DM him a lot. He is on the production side of Claire's Dessert Person YouTube channel, and he also used to be a Bon Appetit employee.
Yeah, didn't he do her theme song as well?
Oh, I think he might have, because he's also a musician. Freaky Wilderness, I believe, is the name of his band.
Shout out.
Shout out to Michael. And actually, that's the only shout out we have. So if you want to get in touch with us on social media, please do. We always love to hear from you. And you can also leave a review or tell a friend if you're enjoying our podcast. It's almost Christmas, so buy merch. Will this come out after Christmas? I don't know. Anyway, whatever time of the year it is always a good time to buy Pod Appétit merchandise at podappetit.threadless.com. You can also sign up for our newsletter, podappetitpodcast.com/newsletter. And we're encouraging people to subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you like to listen to podcasts through YouTube, all of our episodes come out there, so check it out. Our next episode, we will be digesting this entire season of The Great British Bake Off, but we are taking a little holiday break. So we will be back in your ears on the new year on January 8th, 2023. So we'll see y'all soon.
Happy holidays!
Bye!
Bye! Thanks for listening to Pod Appétit Gourmet Takes.
We'd love to hear from you, so find us on Twitter and Instagram at pod_appetit.
And on Facebook at Pod Appétit Podcast.
You can also email us at podappetitpodcast@gmail.com and find all of our episodes on our website, podappetitpodcast.com.